Um, but it was designed where it wouldn't. Good morning, everyone. We'll begin right at 8.
Anyway, right after this meeting, I got John Corbett. I'm doing a subcommittee. Thank goodness he's in the same room.
Okay, good.
Then I got my college coming at 9:30 from LaGrange
That was
College.
my yesterday.
Golly, hey,
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Where's Joe, what's your number? Just punch it. Go ahead. Good morning, everyone. We'll begin our meeting. So this is actually the last day this week of our session when we meet, and we're already in several different committee meetings, and so you'll see our members come in and out as we have to go to different committees to cast our votes. But we'll begin with the prayer. Representative Campbell.
Father, we just come to you with a thankful heart today, just thankful that we live in this country. We thank you for this opportunity to represent the people, and we pray your guidance in all that we do and that we represent you well in what we do. And we thank you and we pray you bless this meeting today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And just a little housekeeping. This is David Hartman Jr. right here. Her name is Bailey Jordan. She's our analyst, policy analyst, one of the ones for the Capitol. She's stepped in. And so thank you for adopting us for the morning. And we also have one guest here today with thank you. See, she's already helping me. Michael Lux with Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge. And so welcome, and always welcome to all the people who are tracking us online and are here today in person. Our time is valuable. We really are running from one obligation to another now. We're getting into the depth of the session. So most of this committee has been fortunate to attend some presentations and some field trips with our Georgia Forestry Commission. But we have Tim Lauermore with us today, and he is going to brief our committee on what exactly the Forestry Commission does and give us resources and things that we need. I'll take some of his thunder, but we're the number one state in the nation in forestry, and that truly means a lot for all of us. And I quickly handed out a flyer, and I didn't keep one for myself, but my committee members have approached me as well as House members, and they are trying to follow the prompts to do public comment for the Twin Pines permit application for the Okefenokee. Thank you. And so I asked our policy analyst to put together the process, and it's lengthy in a way. And so not this committee, we're not taking any position on anything. This is a resource for our committee members to use with their constituents and share with each other. And so this is a printed copy for you, but you can email our admin, Nicole Chappelle, and she can send you actually an email link to that. But it's just your public comment. That is the one avenue that we and citizens of Georgia have right now to comment on this situation. So just wanted to make sure there is a limited time frame, and I don't want you not to have this resource available to those who ask you. And so now we will move into something we all love, our Georgia forest. So thank you, Tim, and well, the program's yours.
The committee this morning, and really appreciate and value the opportunity that you provide for us to come present the services that we provide to our great state and the good work that our 560 employees get up and do every day for this state. And on behalf of all of them, thank you, and thank you committee members for being here this morning and for giving us the opportunity to present. I did not bring handouts, printouts to the committee. David said he would be emailing those out to the group, so you'll have these slides that I'm rolling through in your email inbox. And then so if you have interest in any of that information, I'd encourage you to look at that, and then also know that I am a resource to anyone on this committee. At any time, any minute, feel free to give a call to me or anyone on our staff, and we'll certainly be glad to be as responsive as we can. Madam Chair, you mentioned Mr. Lutz down from Okefenokee. They're a great partner for the Georgia Forestry Commission down in that part of the world. If the committee isn't aware, that is a natural fire habitat. And we partner with Mike and his team to mitigate and suppress and to get fire on the landscape there, I think, extremely well. That partnership is recognized nationally for the significance of that partnership, and it's called the GOAL Group, Greater Association of Okefenokee Landowners. And Mike and his team and our team play a major role in keeping that group going forward. So, Mike, thank you for being here today, and it's good to see you. I do like seeing you in the swamp better, though, I have to admit. So, roll into these, Madam Chair just told you guys, these first two slides is the why the Georgia Forestry Commission. This is a lot of information. Really, to sum it up, it's just like Madam Chair said, Georgia is the #1 forestry state in the nation for a lot of reasons, a lot of metrics, and these are some of those metrics. And really, I want to highlight a couple of these, and then I'll move on to our next couple slides, because some of this is critical to the work that you guys do, and the leadership that you provide ensures that some of this remains in place. 24 million acres of forest land in our state. 67% of that total land area of our state is made up of forest. I get asked all the time, are we sustainable? Are we losing forest land? And really, for the most part, in our state, we have a pretty flat trajectory on forest land, so we're doing an extremely good job, even with the massive development and population growth that we've seen over the last decade. Our state is remaining relatively flat and stable on timber acreage. I will let you know that our forest land are extremely more productive than what they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or even 30 years ago. Won't run through the rest of these metrics, but one thing that makes us unique is Georgia's 91% privately owned. That's different than a lot of places in the country. That's a strength for the industry that invest here, because they depend on those landowners to manage their forest well and then provide those raw materials for facilities that need. I want to drill down to these last two bullets on this. Millions recreate and hunt and enjoy our forest. We don't take that for granted. Our employees recognize that. That's why we do what we do every day, because we know we're serving millions of Georgians. And something really that you guys know this extremely well, our state has excellent hosting conditions for all businesses, but we also have some excellent hosting conditions for the forestry sector. So what does that look like? This map here is the current wood using industry across the United States. It's really, you can't tell what it is, but you just can't hardly see our state down there if you look up there, because those little trees that you see in there represent primary and secondary wood using industry. And you can see where the heavy concentration of those facilities and those wood using industries are. It is in Georgia, and it's in the U.S. South. Why is that? Because we have favorable regulatory climate. We have good transportation systems with the roads and the ports. We have a favorable government. And then first and foremost, when you're looking to invest in a wood using industry, what do you need? You got to have the trees, right? And so that's why we continue to see capital flow to this state and invest in our state, is because we have an abundance of trees. So that's the why, and I just want to take a few seconds and just brag use this slide to brag on what our employees do. We have a forest protection department, and we'll talk in a minute about what exactly these groups do. But we serviced over 6,300 landowners, 4,400 fire breaks, and 1,900 prescribed burn assist. We responded to about 2,800 wildfires last year that burned a little over 20,000 acres. So I get asked that question a lot too. Do we have wildfires in Georgia? Absolutely. Well, how come they're not as large as what you see on the national media? The reason being because this body and our leadership in this state has invested in a forestry commission that takes wildfire mitigation and suppression seriously, and landowners in this state take wildfire suppression and mitigation seriously, and they depend on us to respond and put those fires out. We are well below our 5-year average, which is about 3,200 fires that burns about 23,000 acres a year. Our average response time is 26 minutes to a wildfire. That's taking a heavy equipment, a bulldozer on a lowboy. Vice Chairman Smith knows what a lowboy is. Some of you may be not familiar with that term, but it's basically hauling a large piece of equipment to that fire scene and then plowing essentially a bared mineral soil base.
They also said he's a
Oh, he's a Thank you, Chairman Purple. Appreciate that. Yeah, well done. And I didn't even plant that one. That one just happened. No. So our folks, and then what I'm really proud to say is that we've got a state and we have a culture in our state that supports prescribed burning as an important mitigation tool and a practice that benefits habitat. And our state last year burned over 1.4 million acres. Our agency participated in about 140,000 of those acres directly, which was a 7-year high. Forest managers, we have foresters, we have 90 foresters around our state. They visited 8,200 landowners and saw 422,000 acres and gave prescriptive practices to those landowners and also provided cost share assistance to those landowners. Our marketing and utilization team supports the existing industry and industries that are looking to come to this state with resource assessments. Couldn't be more proud of the work that they're doing. This group, years ago, the body, the Georgia General Assembly, asked us to build a carbon registry for sustainable building materials. That y'all gave us 1 year to do that. I'm proud to report that has been done, and we have our first project underway down at Ponce de Leon. They're building a wood building adjacent to Ponce City Market. They're going to have a 2-story concrete parking garage, one underground and one above it, and 4 stories of that building will be built with wood, mass timber construction, starting in March. Once that starts going, Madam Chair, I will make you aware of that, where we can maybe take a field trip, where y'all can visit that on your own. But really innovative work that's being done with wood, building commercial buildings. We are the first state in the nation that has this registry for sustainable building materials. I am not going to try to explain what it is. I attended some of those meetings, and there's folks who are a lot smarter than I am. But if this group wants to hear more about that, I will get the right folks at the table that can explain it. I'm just proud to report that you gave us a year to do it. We've done it. We've got a first project on the books, and the building community has been extremely supportive in that. Firefighting property screening since 2002, we have screened on federal bases around the country in the Southeast. We have procured $107 million worth of equipment that's been given to counties and also used by us for wildfire suppression and mitigation. So I dare to say that some of your communities have received some of that firefighting equipment. These are our services overview: fire protection, forest management, utilization, and marketing, talked about just a few seconds ago. Many people do not realize that our agency has a law enforcement division. We have a very well-respected law enforcement division amongst forestry agencies. They investigate arson. They investigate timber theft to ensure that our resources are protected and landowners are protected from wrongdoers. We have a reforestation department. We sell tree seedlings across our state. We have the premier seed orchard in the country, and we manage that with a partnership through North Carolina State University. It is in, for those of you that know Representative Danny Mathis, is in his district, and it's in right outside of Cochran, Georgia, in Bleckley County. And if you ever want to know what kind of work is being done there, ask him, because sometimes I accuse him of he's on our payroll. He volunteers there and goes out and helps, and he's really been impressed by that work and glad of his support. We have a state lands management group. We conduct all timber sales that take place on state lands owned by any agency. And then, of course, we do education and outreach to the citizenry of our state and to school students, and looking for opportunities to enhance that as well, just to communicate the value and the opportunities that are available to all of Georgia when it comes to forestry. And then something that we do, and this really makes me proud, is that when communities need us, in state or out of state, our folks are some of the first to show up on incident response support. We just finished up in Henry County on tornadoes, clearing right-of-ways with our chainsaw strike teams. And then some of you may or may not be aware of this, but when the wildfire season out west blossoms or ignites, I don't know if I want to use either of those words, but when it ignites, that typically is during our slow period and our slow season. So we're able to allow our folks to volunteer to go out and fill some of the needs that our friends out in the western U.S. need during extreme wildfire season. That's valuable for a couple reasons. Those folks our folks earn very good compensation while they're there. They also earn overtime while they're there. So they are able to really boost their salaries back home. But the real value for us in Georgia is that they go out and see fire, and they understand, they participate in those management systems. They bring that experience back here that prepares us for when we have significant need or significant event. Underneath, two of our agency areas I just want to talk to you about in more detail with this group, because I think this is significant for what you do with natural resources in the environment, and that's our wildland protection, forest protection, wildfire protection. They're charged with protection and detection and suppression of wildfires around our state. We have 105 of those offices. Some of the work that they do is we partner with rural fire defense departments, giving them resources that they need and training that they need to respond to wildfires. We have two 24-hour response centers that are manned all the time with dispatchers. We provide prescribed burning, as I've already mentioned. We do burn permitting for outdoor burning. And then we also partner with the Environmental Protection Division on the water meter reading program. And that proved that data that our employees collect from water meters that are used in agriculture in southwest Georgia and southeast Georgia, that data that was gathered and has been collected was key to the defense and to us being successful at the U.S. Supreme Court as a state. So our folks spend a lot of time doing that. I hear a lot about that. I'll just say that. It's a lot. I think we've visited 13,000 meters this past year and are still in the process of finishing up that. But really proud of that work, and I think that adds tremendous value back to the landowners down and the farmers down in that part of the state, and it also provides value back to our state, as we saw in the successful case at the Supreme Court. 405 full-time employees in the protection department, 312 tractors, and I put on this slide and you'll have this in your inbox. I just wanted to give you a snapshot or a glimpse into the value of the assets that our people are responsible for in the Protection Department. $121 million worth of assets are under our watch and under our stewardship, and we take that seriously. And those are critical to our employees' safety and their ability to provide their jobs and do their jobs well, and to provide the services that the landowners of this state are asking us to do. The highlight there is that we're strategically located, and we continue to look at that. Are we strategically located? Are we correctly located? Are we positioned where we need to be positioned? As you know, our state is changing, and the way we did things 100 years ago, or the way we did things 20 years ago, or the way we did things 10 years ago may or may not be the right for all communities, the right way for all the communities that we serve going forward. So we continue to look at that and look for opportunities for improvement and efficiencies. But the data shows, and our results are, that we've got average response time in 26 minutes. We have the lowest wildfire size in the U.S. at 5 to 7 acres. That's something that we need to be proud about. That's part of those excellent hosting conditions. When there's people that are investing in land, or they in large blocks of land to purchase for timber management and for forestry management, or a facility that's looking to come to Georgia for a wood-using facility, to site a wood-using facility, fire doesn't even enter the equation. That's a good thing. That's a positive. Forest management, we have 90 foresters. These are professional foresters and specialists around the state that do landowner management plans. We average over 8,000 cases a year, 600,000 cases. That's our 5-year average. So you saw on the earlier slide we were a little behind on that last fiscal year. Part of that is some of our inexperience. Most of our foresters have less than 3 years of experience. 70% of them have less than 3 years of experience. I will say I met with every one of those in the fourth quarter of last year, and I left that series of meetings with them around the state in the fourth quarter. I was so encouraged. We have some really bright, some really smart, some really energetic employees that are foresters for our state. And when I left there, I was like, man, the responsibility is on me. The responsibility is on me to keep those folks engaged, keep them moving up the career ladder, and keep them feeling valued so they'll continue to serve our state. So that's my commitment going forward this year, is to work really hard with those foresters and keep them on board and keep them serving our state. We have an urban and community forestry program. We come in after storms and do storm damage assessments in metro areas, and then we help develop a reforestation plan. How do we get trees back in there after a tornado? So really, we have a website, Ask the Arborist. If you've got a tree question about your shade tree, or you got a constituent, I would challenge you to go do that. It's pretty interesting. We get requests from Australia, New Zealand, Europe. It's a pretty neat service that we have there. Water quality. We work with the forestry community loggers and tree planters to ensure that our state's waters are protected and remain clean. I will let you know that they're voluntary best management practices that we educate and we monitor on, and our community does a remarkable job on ensuring that we follow those best management practices to protect water. We have a staff of experts that focus exactly and directly on that every day. We administer incentive programs. We're the technical service provider for many of the federal programs that come to Georgia. And last year, over $7 million was handed out or passed on to Georgia landowners for improved management on their lands, or for tree planting practices. Something that's interesting that's going on, our foresters, these young, energetic, exciting folks there's a lot of private businesses that are looking to invest in reforestation, and some of our team has gone out and has brought in a little over $1 million from private partnerships to give and to pass on to private landowners to get trees planted in the ground this year as well. So I look forward to where that goes. That's brand new this year. That's innovation. And I think, oftentimes we don't talk about that in government enough. And that's something that we talk about on a regular basis is efficiency and innovation and how do we make improvements. And that's just one example across our agency where we've done some of that. Forest Health, I got asked right after I got this position 2 years ago, what keeps you up at night, Tim? And, you know, obviously employees and the safety is a major factor. That's a major driver. But that bullet, Forest Health, because I talked to you about you got to have trees for the business and for landowners to be successful. There are examples on this globe to where major outbreaks have occurred and has devastated the forest land and devastated the resource. And for me, that's something that I take serious and that we work hard to ensure that we're doing all we can do to manage our forest well, where we can try to avoid pandemic level outbreaks from pest and insect. We have a team of foresters probably out right now. They get going pretty early. That manage, or not manage, but they go out and inventory plots every day to see how our forests are doing, and they visit 20% of those plots every year. So over 5 years, they visited all of those plots, and we utilize that data to evaluate the sustainability of the resource and to see how our forests are how our forests are here in the state of Georgia. We have about 20 foresters that do that. That's a federal pass-through to us, but those guys get out and work every day and do some remarkable work. The value of that inventory analysis is that every company in this state, they pull that data down and look on how the resources around their facility and is it still in balance? Is the harvest in balance with what the growth is? And that's where they collect that data, is from the work that we do. Finishing up, Madam Chair, our operational risk, nothing new. You've probably heard this from every other state agency, or you will hear it from every state agency. Fight to retain viable employees. And I say it that way because it's not just fight to retain employees. We got to fight to retain viable employees. And you know, we're real proud of our state. 9 years, I believe, #1 in doing business. And I believe that government has a role in that. I also believe that if we've got to continue to invest in employees that can make sure government can provide those critical services that our state needs. And I know many of you here believe that as well. Inflation, the cost of doing business. I mean, gosh, we've seen it. You know, thanks for your support in the House. I think you guys in the amended budget appreciate your support with that. You recognize that and voted to pass an additional $500,000 for operating expenses for us in the amended fiscal year. You'll see it again in fiscal year 24 and when you guys get to that. Thank you for that. Fuel cost, repair cost, all of that for us, that fleet that we have that I showed you, that allows us to continue to be a good steward of that. So we thank you for that. And then, of course, succession planning. Where's our next leaders come from in our agency? Some just key initiatives that we've done. Ranger Career Pathway, been great, and you guys funded this last year. We aligned our existing Ranger workforce to that career pathway, and the reason we did that was to secure that experience on the back end to keep them employed with the agency so that they could pass on their institutional knowledge and expertise to our existing employees, and I'm proud to say that's happening. And we're seeing the results of that. That's good. Chief Ranger Efficiency Strategic Planning Session. Chief Rangers are our county managers, essentially. And we brought that group together and really just dug into what their day-to-day is and brought in an outside consultant and really eliminated some redundancy and improved the efficiencies of their job. Still working on that. I think they're meeting today at 9:30 to roll out the final pieces of that. Going to electronic fire reports. Oh my goodness, who thought we could do that? We've been still keying things in, but now everything, I mean, it's just going to be integrated in their job. Going to save an amazing amount of time for those guys. And of course, we align their compensation, our county managers, with their responsibilities. Over the years, through consolidation, chief rangers have taken more responsibility with counties and people across our agency. They did not receive compensation for that additional responsibility. We instituted that last year, and that's been well received. And of course, many of you guys know this. I came from, prior to this role, I came from the private forestry sector, and one of the things that came with me is just the emphasis on employee and safety and engagement. I work for a large lumber company, and we can never afford to take a day off on safety. And we're trying to institute that amongst our folks as well. We can't take a day off on safety. And I think engagement comes with that as well. So we've got a new safety campaign across our agency, and we're committed to professional and personal development and training of our employees to get them engaged and keep them moving up the career ladder, and to help them grow. Because if they're engaged, I think that makes our agency better. So, Madam Chair, I'm going to stop there, and I'll be glad to take any questions that the committee members may have. Thank you for the opportunity.
I think it's very clear why we're the #1 state in the nation for forestry. So thank you for your leadership. Briefly, the forestry is an early response to all of our areas of the state that have natural disasters. And you've been busy right now in parts of our state right now that just had the tornadoes.
Yep.
And the aftermath is when they come back with all these seedlings for our citizens to begin planting. So it's a wonderful partnership there. So to our committee members, especially those who are new, with respect to all the members here, and we have a lot of people want to comment or ask a question, but hold your question and comment briefly to give others a chance. And if I move on, you'll understand why, because I want to give everybody a chance. And we're trying to keep up with the numbers that are punched in. And so we'll start off. And Lowboy here is #1.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tim, thank you. Great leadership and great presentation. You mentioned a couple of times wildfires and how we compare to out west with their wildfires, and then you also mentioned controlled burn. I think those two go together synonymously, because with all that controlled burn that y'all help people with throughout our state, it has to suppress the wildfires that we have here, and I really appreciate you doing that. And thanks for your leadership, and you got a great team of people. And I live in a timber area, Harris County, and y'all do a great job helping our citizens. And if you need somebody to drive that Lowboy, just call me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And then next number is 24. So as our representative speaks, state your name again for those watching, and we'll begin. Representative Dickey, number 24, I believe. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to follow up with what Vice Chair Smith said. As a landowner, control burn is real important. I think that really does go hand in hand with fire suppression. And I just like to put but it's gotten real expensive as a landowner. I find it difficult now to do that, and I know you and I have had a discussion, and I'd love for this committee to consider in the future maybe some state incentives to landowners, cost share type thing. I think we had that many years ago in this state to cost share. I know y'all do assist, but still it's few days and takes a lot of labor and equipment to do that. So I'd love for this committee to keep that on their mind in future budgets to help department assist landowners in that way. So just want to thank you for your leadership in the department. It's been really, really great. Thank you.
Number 29.
On the end over here,
So state your
Representative
name.
Clay
Yeah.
Perkle. Thank you, Director. As you went along, you just provided a wealth of information from Lowboy to Ponce de Leon, I think is how the locals might refer to that. Representative Danny Mathis, planting trees and bodies. But the question I have, on a serious note, so a few years ago, I spoke with EPA from D.C. complaining about the emission controls. You mentioned $121 million in assets we have. We've got these emission controls on our Tier 4 engines on our dozers, and it has the potential to be exceedingly dangerous for our personnel in the woods that are fighting a fire. You don't know when these engines are going to derate, and when it derates, you're at an idle. It don't know if a fire's coming on you. There's no lead time, and you're sitting in the woods on a super dozer that can provide great safety to you and others, and it derates, and you're stuck where you at. And I was wondering if you have any close calls. It makes as much sense to me as having a governor throttle on a trooper car. It is, to me, it's laughable that there is no exception or an exemption for firefighting equipment to this EPA thing. Have we had those close calls that we need to put additional pressure with our Congress, with the EPA, and are you seeing not just the potential for problems, but actual problems that you've seen in the field? And if you would comment, kind of this is, Madam Chair, if you would indulge me, Hurricane Michael knocked out a lot of trees. And how have we come back in reforesting those acreage that we lost? I know some large tracts, actually, they planted some solar panels rather than trees on them, so thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Tier 4 engine, we continue to work with our National State Foresters Association to push that issue around Tier 4 engines. We do that collectively with all of my counterparts around the state that use heavy equipment. He's exactly right. They do derate, and he explained extremely well. We continue to keep that as an issue. And the fire chiefs, our fire chief, Frank Sorrells, leads that effort for us. Still fighting that battle with EPA. But as far as close calls, I'm not aware of any recently. I know we've had probably in the past we've had incidents of that, but I know our employees are well aware of that, and they mitigate for that and use extra space to separate themselves. But not aware of any close calls. I will report back on that to the committee. I'll get that information. Hurricane Michael, I think that our forests are resilient. And that's a great example of resiliency down there. I think overall that area has recovered extremely well. And one of the key indicators I would say that is that I would say, how do we know that? There's been an enormous amount of private equity that has built mills in that area. They wouldn't have built those mills down in that area if they wouldn't have seen the resource and the trees that were down there. And you've got several new mills down there and extra capacity in that market base down there. So that market base was doing extremely well before Hurricane Michael, and I would say they're still doing well now.
Thank you. And next up, number 27, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joe Campbell. You mentioned earlier that in our fire off season that we send people out west to assist with them. Do they reciprocate in the opposite of that when it's our fire season and their off season? Do we get people from out west to help?
For large incidents in the past, yes, we do get resources from other states. Since I have been here for 2 years, we have not had a wildfire event that has required an extended response that we've been required to call in additional assets. But we do have that ability to call in assets. I will say we have had some outside assets come to the state to facilitate and help with prescribed burning. We actually had a group from Alaska last burning season down around Swainsboro. I don't see anybody, but down around in the Swainsboro, Manual County. There's Mr. Petrie, Representative Petrie knows that area. Screven County, they did some burning down there from Alaska. So we do get support. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. And up next is number 11.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what your employees do, keeping this state safe from wildfires. You say 5 point something acres is the average size of a fire. That is impressive. But my question to you, you mentioned things that keep you up at night. What's the number one thing we could do to help you get a good night's sleep?
Retire you.
It's a great question. I think continue to partner to secure our workforce without question. And I'll be glad to have some conversation with the committee about that and provide some additional information. But without question, I mean, if we can get a secure, well-experienced workforce, we all know the benefit of that. And we've got a secure, very capable workforce, very energetic workforce. We got to continue to be able to. We got to put that piece in that allows them to get the experience, and that means to retain them. Yeah, great question.
Thank you. And number 10.
Jesse Petrie. Thank you, Director. To that point, you were absolutely right. We got to have the best and the brightest working force. I do want to tell you that having worked in multiple counties with the Georgia Forestry Commission, you do a fine job. The men working for you do a great job, and we do need to make sure that we continue to retain the best. A couple of questions for you. To piggyback on some of what we heard earlier, burning is so important, and so there's a couple of challenges that I've noticed, particularly as the state becomes more urban, okay? So first of all, fire, we need to educate people about fire. It's amazing to me the number of people that don't understand how good fire is because, of course, we spent hundreds of years trying to tell them how bad it was. So I understand that. But we've got to make sure that we educate people, particularly in urban areas, the benefits of fire, not only for timber, but for wildlife, for game. And if we had wildlife resources here, they would tell us all there's nothing better. Right. And so that issue, and then one other issue. Another issue I've noticed as we deal with folks maybe in more urban settings today, and as the state continues to grow, and it is growing more and more urban, and that is the disconnect between people that really see themselves as environmentally conscious and fail to understand that the reason 2/3 of this state is covered in forest is because of a vibrant timber industry. And so as a department, what are we doing to help educate people and young people about the benefits of the forestry industry to keep this state green and timbered, and the benefits of fire, because a lot of people are, they're scared to death of fire, and they're worried about road safety and all these different things. Now that's becoming an issue as encroachment continues into some of these counties. So what can we do to better educate people about the benefits of this industry and of controlled fire?
That's a really big question. Yeah, I agree. You hit a couple things there, and I think some of your other colleagues are highly interested in that topic as well, of educating our citizenry, students, landowners, the public about the value of forestry and the value of prescribed fire. Markets, I mean, you can look anywhere in the country. There's a direct correlation between healthy markets and healthy forest. Absolutely. I mean, there's direct correlation. The numbers suggest it, the data shows it, and the facts back that up. The component about, we've got some folks that are doing some really good work on education. We do some with our Smoky programs in schools. Probably are not doing enough, to be honest, and just be transparent. Could do more. We also have some great partners. DNR does they get out and do work as well. We've got trade associations in the state that are fortunately have resources to do some of that work. The Georgia Forestry Foundation, they've got some virtual options for landowners. Our team is currently looking at opportunities on how we can bolster and improve our education to outreach for all the reasons that you suggested. I would even suggest that landowners that we deal with today, are so much different than landowners that we used to deal with 15 years ago. Like I was talking to Representative Corbett this morning, he said, I've been trying to get my fire breaks plowed, but he knows his land's wet, and he knows that they can't get a plow in the ground to plow his fire breaks. I would suggest to you that there's some landowners today that don't have that understanding, and when they call us and we suggest to them that their property is too wet for us to get out there, it creates some challenges and some barriers. So we only don't need to educate young students and up, you know, that demographic. We're also educating new landowners that, you know, have made their wealth in other areas where they're not used to being told no, or they're not used to facing barriers because of environmental, you know, concerns or barriers. So, excellent point. The landowner pattern in our state is also, that requires education too.
Thank you. And number 26.
Thank you, Mr. Lauren McDonald. I want to first thank you for your stewardship in your 2 years. I was honored to carry a piece of legislation for you that you saw a need to reduce the burn permit call-in lines and give it back to more local control. And I think it saved your department over $1.2 million, and that you were able to save this state. And also you mentioned recently that you went from paper to electronic, so you're saving some trees now. So that's, I mean, those are, that's, but yeah, as a young man growing up in a fire family, my dad was a fire chief for 25 years. My grandfather, assistant fire chief. I remember the tanker programs that have been around and the investments that the forestry programs made in local departments all around this state. And, you know, fire hasn't changed from, you know, 1700 to 2023. And as a fireman myself for 27 years, the scariest fires I ever went to were wood fires, grass fires, because they can change in a moment. When I went in a house, I knew that space. So it's a dangerous job your guys do, and we our community in Forsyth, we invested in wildland firefighting teams, and we called them brush bunnies. But you know, I remember we sent about 15 of them down to when the Okefenokee was on fire. But we take that very serious, even though we're becoming more urban, but we still have our wildfire teams up even in Forsyth County. I just want to thank you for what you do.
Well, certainly appreciate your support, and also appreciate your leadership on that bill. I think it was 2 years ago now, if I remember right. Yes, sir. I was. Yeah, exactly. Are you suggesting I'm not fresh now? Is that what you're suggesting?
We have number 12, and that's our final question. Then I'll do a few close-up comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Debbie Buckner, and thank you for all you do. We have you on speed dial at home. I do have a question, because right here on our desk is some information about the Twin Pines, and I understand that there's a group that's down there that's the Greater Okefenokee Association of Landowners. Is that like the forestry landowner groups in other parts of the state where they're trying to learn about their forest management and how it relates to the swamp, or do you know?
I am well aware of that group, and they are a group that really focused on fire and mitigation of the impact of a wildfire to that community. In the swamp and outside of the swamp. So yes, I go down, I think twice a year, if I remember correctly. I'm not looking at my calendar, but I go down twice a year and visit with the Greater Okefenokee Landowner Association. It's your large, I think some of the members that come to mind is Superior Pine, who's in Fargo, Rayonier, the Warehousers, Joe Hopkins, and then there's some other, you know, Mike here with the Okefenokee Swamp is a key part and a key partner in that group as well. But yes, they are a landowner organization.
Thank you.
Centered around fire.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we can all see why Georgia is doing so well, and it's your great leadership. Appreciate that. And I want to add to those who are listening and here today, you've also been helping us to understand the need to encourage and develop what's called urban forest, and to help people who are actually in an urban area and how they can help with that. So we're very lucky that as the state, we're the #1 state to do business. We're the #1 forestry state, and this committee is very engaged, always has been. Actually, we have been proud to be the leaders with all the different policies that have been put forward in the way of forestry. So for my committee, I see one of our associations here, Andres Villegas, is here with Georgia Forestry Association and known to most of our members. We do policy academy studies in the interim years, and we did do a control burn one time, and so this committee, to those who don't know, we get engaged and we try and learn and we dig deep to understand the issues. So I want to thank y'all for your interest all the time. Your subcommittee assignments are in the folder. This year is a new year, new leadership, planning and such as that. We haven't gotten off to as fast a start as we normally do, but bills will begin to be assigned to our subcommittees. I want to also remind you to just look at the postings outside our office to keep up with what's going on. You can always email the staff to find out if you have any questions. Again, the handout, which is an explanation, no positions taken, but it's just an explanation of how the public can comment with the open permit period right now going on. That is the one and only effective process right now for citizens to engage in. So I hope it is not lessened in consideration of some other issues. This is the engagement of citizens and the public. So you will be able to email Nicole Chappelle, and she can send you an electronic information as well. And please just stay tuned. We'll post and give you your assignments as they come up. Thank